it's me, Michael Haneke, back at it again with a new episode of the Boy Time Podcast. And as always, I'm joined by Babby. We have a fun and exciting episode planned as always. I think next week I'll be back to Elvis. I think I've decided. But enough time has passed. I've given it a little bit of room to breathe. But I am going to skip the one that I got halfway through and almost gave up the entire project for, because I don't want to watch that one because it was really boring. So please, I beg for forgiveness. But I figure everyone is going to be okay with that, and no one is a diehard Wild in the Country fan. Unless you are. Have you seen the film?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I know you're a big Elvis head.
I haven't. I swear.
You're the biggest Elvis freak I know, so I just wanted to make sure. But yeah, I've been on a little bit of a horror kick. So I decided, wouldn't it be funny to do 2 meta horror movies, which, I haven't seen a whole lot of. I think the only thing that's kind of close to that I've seen is Scream, which kind of started the meta horror genre as a whole. But that one isn't like so much meta horror as we have come to know it. It's more similar to actually the first movie that I'm going to be talking about, Cabin in the Woods, in that it is like self-aware a little bit, where Scream is like, it's a horror movie slasher that takes place in a world where horror movies, like real horror movies, exist, and they reference them, and they'll even they say stuff like, oh, I'm not going to go into basement. That's a stupid decision that, they would make in Friday the 13th or something. Like, they would specifically reference other horror movies, which is why that movie is kind of fun, because it's very wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And plus Matthew Lillard is in it and he plays a crazy guy. So that's always fun. But after that kind of revitalized the horror genre in general, but also kind of spawned a subgenre, which we're going to be talking about. Actually, the second one, I don't know if it completely falls in that, but we'll get to there when we get there. We'll talk about Cabin in the Woods first. Cabin in the Woods is a movie that I've known about for a while, and it came highly regarded as a kind of pinnacle of the meta horror genre. And so I decided to check it out. And it is interesting in it has a great premise, but I think it ultimately kind of falls on the same tropes that it's kind of trying to parody or poke fun at. So I don't know how successful it is. But the basic premise of Cabin in the Woods is that we're kind of getting a dual narrative going on. On the surface, you have a bunch of college kids that are going out to a cabin in the woods, like the movie, and a bunch of zombies come alive after they read a Necronomicon-esque thing in the basement, and then they are trapped and killed one by one. Standard horror movie stuff. But the second narrative is kind of what makes this movie interesting, is there's this secret society that operates all over the globe. And basically there's different secret societies in every country. And it's kind of alluded that every secret society is basically responsible for every single horror movie ever. So there's the American branch, which is the one that we are following. And they are kind of responsible for all of the American horror movies. But then sometimes they'll check in with the Japanese department. And then they have some weirdo Japanese ghost movie going on. So it's kind of fun that it's kind of all the horror movies are canon, all in one universe. And they're all being done by the same shadow organization that is basically like putting monsters and people in this situation to create horror movies to appease they're like appeasing a like underground god ring or whatever that they had to like they locked up and now they're in charge of keeping them at bay, but that's obviously like an allegory for horror audiences in general. So it's kind of fun that there's like that angle to it. And there's a lot of like fun references to other horror movies throughout. Because you know it's a bunch of like college kids, and all of the kids that go out to the cabin in the woods are all like stereotype like character tropes. Where like Chris Hemsworth is in it, and he plays like the dumb jock who's with like, and I mean this, I think they use this word, so and his girlfriend is the whore, which is the trope that they use. And then there's like the main character who's like the final girl. They call her the virgin, which makes sense. There's a guy who's super high, and he's the fool. And then there's a guy who's kind of like the romantic lead, and he's the like intellectual, I think they say. So it's all these like character tropes that are going out in the cabin in the woods, and it's very like on the nose. That side of the story is very cliche, and it's intentionally so because they're kind of poking fun at other horror movies that, you know, don't have that angle to it. And so that's kind of fun. And so they go out to this cabin in the woods, and it's a normal-ish cabin, but then they go in the basement, and that's kind of where the fun starts. Because when they go in the basement, basically each one of them is drawn to a different relic that's like in the basement. And each of these relics is a nod, a little tip of the cap to another horror movie. And it's kind of, it's not insinuated, it's like directly referenced that whatever relic the group is ultimately drawn to is what monster the shadow organization sends to kill them. So it's kind of fun. And while they're in the basement, they're looking through all these relics. And they have like, they cut back to the shadow organization, and they're taking bets on like which one they want to win, which one they think that they'll pick. And that's kind of fun too, because there's like this like really suspenseful, kind of thrilling, you know, scene where we're seeing all these relics and these spooky imagery and whatever, and then we're cutting back to these these, you know, dorks in this like underground lab or whatever, and they're taking bets, and it's like a complete 180. And that's the kind of stuff that works really well when they're clashing like that. The tonal clashes are nice. But, you know, some of the relics, I mean, the one that they pick, I think is kind of a nod to the Evil Dead. I mean, they're in like a wine cellar, which is, you know, where they find the Necronomicon in the Evil Dead. One of the characters is like looking through film reels, which I think is maybe a nod to The Ring. One of the girls is like putting on a necklace. That one I didn't quite know what that one was. Maybe it's Relic or something. I don't know. I haven't seen that one. And then one of the jock, Chris Hemsworth, is like playing with a puzzle ball, which is a reference to Hellraiser. So there's a lot of like really fun like Easter eggs and stuff in this movie. But where it ultimately falls flat is like once it's down to the final girl, then she like basically finds out about the secret organization, and then it just kind of becomes a monster movie at the end. And it's like, oh, that's okay. So you were just like poking fun at all the cliches, but now we're down to a final girl, and she's being chased by a bunch of monsters. You know, I feel like the metaphor doesn't completely add up there. But I think it is really fun, and it's a cool idea. And I think this is something that I was thinking about after the fact, where I'm like, I don't know if I would even change anything in the script. I think that the idea itself is kind of made for like a short film or something that's maybe 40 minutes, because once it's I think it's an hour and a half, which really isn't very much. But I think it could have been even shorter with the potential of what that idea is, and it would have been really fun. But I think as a full feature, it didn't quite work. So that's Cabin in the Woods. I think it's very nice. But I think the more interesting movie we're going to be talking about is Funny Games. I watched the original one, but let's talk about this. Funny Games, 1997, directed by a crazy Austrian guy named Michael Haneke, who I don't know much about. I think this is the first movie of his that I've seen, but this is a meta horror in the sense that the actual victims in the movie aren't the victims that the director is kind of toying with. The victim in this movie is you, the viewer, which is kind of crazy. It's something that I've never seen before. So that's why it's kind of interesting, I guess. But just like if I was to give like just a general synopsis, it's just this Austrian family, a rich Austrian family, which is a husband, a wife, and their kid. They go out to their summer home in the lakes and the Alps. It's very pretty. They have a sailboat. They're out there. And then two guys just show up. They're wearing all white. They're wearing white gloves. And they come up and they just basically start causing trouble up until the point where they take the family hostage and then are basically like, hey, by 9 a.m. the next day, you're all going to be dead. Isn't that a fun bet? Okay, now let's have some fun games. We're going to play some fun games together. And that's where the hilarity comes in, I guess. Because it is called Funny Games. So you would expect something like this to be very funny. And it is not. So, basically, where this meta horror stuff comes from is kind of interesting in that there's this main guy. Let me get his character's name. I think it's, all of these people have Austrian. Well, they're not even Austrian names. They're just all the like generic white people names. I think it's Peter, maybe. Nope, that's not him. It's Paul. Okay, Paul and Peter are the bad guys. And then George is the husband and Anne is the wife, and then George is also the son. So this isn't confusing at all. But Peter, the main bad guy, I'll say, there are many moments throughout the film where Peter either slyly or overtly breaks the fourth wall and talks directly to the audience, or just messes with the structure of the movie as a whole to mess with the audience. It's very freaky, and that doesn't even start until like half an hour in, where I think he basically kills the family dog. And as the mom goes out to check out the body, he basically like walks in front of the camera, turns around and winks. And like, that's the moment that everything turns to shit pretty much. Because then he'll like, as he's like torturing the family, he like looks at the camera and is just like, hey, you guys like this, right? I'm going to make sure that this is satisfying. You want like a full plot, don't you? I'm not actually just going to murder them all right now. And I'm like, stop talking to me. I would really rather you not look into my eyes and say these things to me. But he does, and I am not a fan of it. But the most like famous meta thing, and I won't go too much into spoilers here, but there is a moment where one of the characters gets the upper hand on the villains. I don't even really want to go into why or how, but they get the upper hand, and it's like right at the turn of like the third act. So like in any other horror movie, if there's going to be a turn, it's right around there. Like if the hero is going to win or escape or whatever, it would be right around there. So as soon as that happens, that's what you're expecting. Oh, this is all going to wrap up very nicely. It's going to be, they're going to make it out. It's going to be okay, you know? But Peter basically like knocks that character out and then reaches for a TV remote and reverses the movie and just rewinds it until that moment happens. And then he takes that away. So it's a like play on your expectations to where like, oh, you thought the movie was going to end this way? No, it's going to end bad for everybody. Everybody is going to be murdered, and you are a dumb idiot for thinking that it was going to end otherwise. It's brutal and graphic and gross, and it doesn't really follow a traditional structure as you might imagine, because there's another moment where like something truly horrific happens. I'm not gonna say what it is, but it's really bad, and I think there's like straight up, I think it's 15 minutes, one shot that's 15 minutes where we are 5 minutes of that, just the first 5 minutes, is just holding it on to one character. And it's not a close up shot, it's a pretty wide shot where they're in the middle and we're seeing a TV kind of in the foreground and it's playing like NASCAR. And we're just holding on it. And they're not expressing, they're like in complete shock. They aren't doing anything. And it is like absolutely horrible to watch because like as they are stewing on it, you are also stewing on it. It's this like horrible reality where like you are also being kind of traumatized in that moment of like being in this situation, and it's like horrible. Like I cannot describe to you how bad that moment is. And then it eventually like kind of moves on from that and becomes like this like big expression of like grief, in a way that almost kind of rivals a similar scene in Hereditary, which I don't say lightly because I love that movie. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that where it just like lingers. Like the final shot of the movie is just a freeze frame of Peter's eyes as like this heavy metal. I don't even know what kind of music it is. It's like this thrash metal that's playing so loud, and it's a freeze frame of his eyes, and it's just that for like 3 minutes, and then it like cuts to credits out of nowhere. It's like full of these unsettling and awful moments that you're like forced to stew in because Michael Haneke wants to force you to like feel the pain that these characters are feeling. It's I would say it's very successful at what it does, but it's not something that I would recommend to most people, obviously. But Michael Haneke disagreed. I think maybe the most famous thing about this movie, besides the fourth wall stuff, is the fact that Michael Haneke made the movie again, exactly 10 years later, shot for shot, down to the timing, everything. The script is exactly the same. It's just translated into English because Michael Haneke thought that the original, which was recorded in Austrian or German, I don't know. I don't speak either, so I can't say. But it didn't quite reach the intended audience because he was trying to basically rub this in the noses of American horror slash thriller fans. And he thought that, well, only, pretentious art people are going to watch a movie in a different language. I'm going to remake the entire movie from scratch, with some solid talent because the wife is played by Naomi Watts, who's like, well, she's in a bunch of like artsy movies. She's a David Lynch alum. And Tim Roth, who is in like a bunch of Tarantino movies. So it's like people who are really talented, and they are basically just in this movie that was recreated just so that Americans would see it, which is kind of a baller move. I think it's kind of awesome that he did it. I don't think I'm ever going to watch the American version. But if I were to watch this movie again, it probably would be just because I am kind of curious on what the other version looks like, even though I've seen like side by sides and they are exactly the same. I, it's kind of like shocking that someone did that. It's not like completely unheard of for a director to remake one of their own movies, but it is uh, basically unheard of for them to do a shot for shot remake of their own movie. People make shot for shot remakes of movies, but it's not usually their own movies. It's an interesting story, an interesting tale, and it's also kind of hard to talk about in a setting like this, in that it is so visceral. It's something that you really need to see to fully experience. But I'm gonna be honest, like I had to pause like 2 times, like take breaks because like I couldn't handle it. And I'm like, this is like really messing with me in a way that no other horror movie has. And like I had to look down and like pet my dog. I'm like, is there still good in the world? You know, like I felt like utterly hopeless by the end of this experience. So yeah, I wouldn't really recommend anyone watch it unless you're absolutely crazy like I am. Or if you're like really into horror movies, then maybe you might be more desensitized to it than I would be, but it's a crazy movie. Not so, like nothing I've ever seen before. So if you've seen every other movie, then maybe check it out, including Wild in the Country. So watch Wild in the Country first and then go to Funny Games. That's my recommended double feature. That would be an awful day, but I think it's worth it in the end. So those are the 2 movies I watched. Don't have a ton to say about them, but they are interesting in their own ways. So that's that. But I did watch the first season of Severance, the Apple TV show. Some people have heard of it.
People.
Some people have heard of it. I'm a little late to the game. I don't remember when the second season finished. Was it like a month or 2 ago?
It was like a month or two. Yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't been that long. But I finally did it. I'm watching it, and it is very good. I will say, as a fan of sci-fi, I think why it took me so long to get into is that, and this is not a detriment of the show. I think that the concept is not entirely interesting on paper because I think a lot of people, if you like shrink it down to one sentence, it's almost something that is appealing in that wouldn't it be nice to like go to work and then just wake up and all your work's done and you don't have to deal with it? Like just jump forward in time. Like that part of it's awesome. I would like that. But it's like once you get into the details of it, and it's more like specifically with like this evil mega corporation that they're working for, that's where like the sci-fi thrills come from, and it is very good. The guy who plays Mr. Milchick is amazing.
He's fantastic. It's my favorite.
He's so dang good. I don't know what else he's been in. Let me see.
He's going to be in the Mission Impossible film.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Oh, looks like he hasn't been in very much.
No, which is crazy.
That is crazy. Well, I'm glad. I hope that he gets discovered after this because he brings this like level of intensity that is insane where you never know if like what he's saying is true, especially in like the second season because I watched the first episode and I'm like, oh, this is like This is so sketchy. And I'm like feeling as trepidatious as all of the characters are. But I'm like, oh, Mr. Milchick, he sells it. He's so dang good at being evil. So I'm very glad that he's in this show. And also everyone else is absolutely fantastic. I know Adam Scott from Parks and Rec. He hasn't really been in much since then. I think he was in something. Let me see. I know he was in like something else after that. Um, oh, he was in Madam Web. So
Oh,
I guess you could say he's had a lot of success after Parks and Rec. That was after Severance. Why was he in Madam Web? That's a question I have. Looks like he was in like Step Brothers, and he was in Krampus, which I have not seen. Oh, he's apparently in The Aviator. Okay, he's been in a lot of stuff. But I know him from Parks and Rec, and he's really good. I wasn't like worried or anything, seeing that he was like the main character, because he's really good in Parks and Rec. But I'm like that is a very different show, obviously, a very different tone, and like I think he's mostly known for doing comedies. So I'm like, how is this gonna work? But I think he's pretty dang good. And I mean, everybody that's like playing a severed character is good, in that they have to like essentially play like two different characters, which is kind of cool. Especially Patricia Arquette. Man, she is she is fantastic. She is like very similar to the guy who plays Milchick, Tremel Tillman. I need to get better at knowing that guy's name. But Patricia Arquette is like she plays Cobell or Mrs. Stillman or whatever.
Selvig,
Selvig. Yeah,
I think.
I think that's it. And so she's kind of playing two different characters too. Well, she like bounces around from like four. There's like all these different like backstories that she has concocted that are so interesting. And the way that she sells it too, where like you see that she's his neighbor at the end of the first episode, and I'm like, is she severed? And like I feel like you don't really find out for sure until like a funeral, which happens like halfway through the season. For the first couple of episodes, like you're guessing, and I'm like, that's the fact that she's able to pull that off. Like obviously credits to the writer or whatever, but also the fact that she's able to sell it that like she is playing these two very distinct characters that well, that sells it. It's pretty amazing. So I just want to give a big shout out to everybody on the cast, including John Turturro, which every time I see him, I think of, huh?
My favorite.
He's so cheating good. Well, whenever I think of John Turturro, I think of him in Do the Right Thing, where he's just like screaming slurs at the camera. And so it's a very different role, obviously, because he's in love with Christopher Walken, and maybe one of the best romances I've ever seen on the silver screen. They are so dang cute together, even though they're corpo bootlickers. I don't care. They're so cute. I don't know. It's a really, really nice relationship. And I like that arc is like fully paid off at the end of the first season. I'm like, oh, geez, it's so sad. It's so sad. I won't go too much into spoilers or anything because I don't want to spoil it in case you're like me and you're late to the game. But I think it's worth watching, obviously, unless you hate sci-fi slash corpo dystopia, I guess is kind of the genre. Another really great thing I like about this, it's one of my favorite like visual genres is like retrofuturism. I think like Blade Runner 2049 is like that, or even something like The Incredibles, where it's like these 50s and 60s iconography with this like futuristic tech. I am always a big fan of whenever like a sci-fi thing does that. 'Cause I think it's so cool having this like really rustic analog feel to something that is so futuristic and techy. Creates a really great atmosphere, a familiarity yet unfamiliar, if you will. And I think Severance does it really, really well. Like they're all like using these like off-white TVs or off-white uh, computers, and they're in like busted old like 70s station wagons. It's like this really interesting atmosphere. But it clearly takes place in present day because they have like, well, actually, they have like cell phones, but they're like shaped like old cell phones. It's kind of weird. I've just been paying attention to the tech because it's very interesting to me. But I'm liking it so far. I think once I finish season 2, we'll eventually do a whole feature on it. So stay tuned for that. But
Yeah, I have thoughts, and I have not been able to express them publicly yet.
I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure you have thoughts. The whole time I was thinking, like while I was watching this, I'm like, I'm sure he has like completely different attitudes for all of this from me.
Yeah.
So I am interested to hear what you have to say. And I'm sure everyone else is too. So we'll bring that to you hopefully in a couple weeks. Give me some time to finish it and then think about it. And then I guess we'll keep you posted when season 3 comes out, which I saw there's like
Maybe
some,
sooner than later.
yeah, sounds like there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on in between these 2 seasons where let me see what the creator of the show's name is. It is Dan Erickson, who is or was the creator slash showrunner, which for those who don't know, showrunners, think of it this way. If a director is in charge of a movie, a showrunner is in charge of a TV show, which is confusing because there's also directors in TV shows. But a director of like one episode of a TV show has less input than a showrunner of a TV show because they kind of choose the whole direction that the show goes. And they're more or less the creative director. So Dan Erickson was the showrunner for the first 2 seasons up until this new one. I think he's still on the writing team. He's still an executive producer, but they got 2 people to be the new showrunners, and I don't remember their names right now.
Severed.
Yeah. Wait, who is it?
They're severed. It's
Oh,
the same
they're
person.
severed. Oh. That would be interesting.
It was getting too confusing. They had to split it up.
I could see that. I could see that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think he said and Ben Stiller both said that it was like basically in an effort to like speed up the production process to make the show more streamlined so that Dan Erickson can essentially just focus on writing, doesn't have to focus on the minutia of actually running the show.
That makes sense.
So I'm not like worried. This isn't like drama that there's like, oh, big shift ups. It sounds like that this is like a good direction to like keep the show moving, keep that momentum going.
This isn't extremely uncommon or anything either. I feel like
Oh no.
big shows like this often go through stuff like this.
Yeah. It's weird when if like Vince Gilligan is like an exception where like he was the showrunner for like all of Breaking Bad. I think by the end of Better Call Saul, I think is it Peter Gould? Is that the other guy? He kind of ended up like taking on the showrunner role more and more as Better Call Saul kept going. So yeah, it's not unusual for something like this to happen, and I think it's a good move because like I was paying attention to that, and I'm like, oh man, all the best episodes of season 1 I saw written by Dan Erickson. I'm like, okay, if he's gonna be in the writers' room for season 3, and that's like all he's doing, we're set. That's good stuff. So that's all going on. And I also did see that Adam Scott and Patricia Arquette are both executive producers of the second season. So They're putting their
Yes.
money where their mouth is, I guess. So that's kind of fun and cool. It's a good show, good acting. I will say I was very excited because I watched the first episode of season 2 right before we recorded this, and it had one of those "stay tuned for after the credits to see the behind the scenes." And I'm like, oh yes, specifically because the first scene of season 2 is that crazy
Yeah,
oneer
with the
where he's
camera down.
running, yeah, where he's
Yeah.
running through the halls. And I'm like, oh, that's going to be so cool to see how they did that. And they did not do that. It was basically just like a teaser for like, hey, this next season's going to be crazy. Like, oh, I don't want to know that.
There is footage of it
I,
somewhere.
I'm sure there is. I was just a little bit disappointed it wasn't after the credits.
Yeah. It's just, which is weird because I feel like the cameraman like posted about it on Instagram or something.
Oh, did he? I could see that. It's very technically
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
It was like that's why I wanted to see how they did it. Cause I'm like, I know there's so many like hidden cuts in this show. Like every time
Mhm.
they're in the hallways, I feel like I was like trying to watch for that. Man, this is turning into a Severance feature, and I didn't want to do that. Whatever. It's
It's okay.
very
We'll
good.
need one because season 2 is gonna like completely flip stuff. So
Okay, perfect. Yes. So I watched it. Feature coming soon. I won't say anything else. That's it. I'm cutting myself
me
off.
neither.
Okay. Um, I think that's it. That's all I have to say. So I'm gonna pass it on over to Babby for his segment of the show, music.
Musica. I guess I'll start with the concert review. We'll do that first, then get our
Oh,
normally scheduled program.
okay.
Second concert review in a row.
That's
The Lucy
true.
one last week that you
Yeah.
did. Um, but I saw Black Country New Road in
Oh.
Chicago,
Oh wow.
the great windy
A
city.
windy city.
This was their opener of their North American tour, I think.
Oh.
So it was the first time they were in the States for this go round. Um, yeah, it was at Salt Shed, which is a really cool venue. It's got like a pizza place and a bar and a weed store inside the venue,
Oh.
which is crazy. Um, yeah, but yeah, they were with Nora Brown and Stephanie Coleman and Frico as openers. I'm gonna talk about both the openers because they were interesting.
Okay.
Nora Brown and Stephanie Coleman um, are kind of like folk Americana, almost bluegrass artists, um, which I thought was an interesting pick for a Black Country New Road uh, opener. But they were fantastic. I really enjoyed their set. It was definitely like traditional American folk, which I guess kind of contrasts the British folk, I guess, of some of this new album.
Yeah.
Um, they were really nice openers. I don't know if it like the crowd did like them, which is good because this was definitely a Zoomer show through and through. I felt a little old almost, despite a lot of these people being my age, I think. But felt a little old during parts of this. But Nora Brown was fantastic. And yeah, she was banjo, guitar, vocals, and then Stephanie Coleman provided violin, which was very, very nice.
Hmm.
So yeah, we bought a couple of their records as well because it was a very nice opening set, and I love a good old kind of bluegrassy folk. But yeah, they were pretty great. I think they're pretty small in general, but definitely check them out. I think the Nora Brown one we got was Long Time to Be Gone. I have not listened to it yet, but um, it's like 15 songs, 32 minutes, just some nice little folk songs. So, yeah, they were really good. I really enjoyed it. And then the energy completely changed after that. So, Frico was next.
Freako.
Um, Frico.
Oh.
I've heard of Frico. I feel like people have recommended us Frico.
Oh.
They had their album come out last year. Um, the funny bird on the cover, the cardinal. They're Chicago natives as well, which I thought was weird because they sound like they've almost been born out of the windmill scene, which maybe
Oh.
they kind of were, but like disconnected overseas, kind of. Um, this is the most Zuber band to like ever exist. Uh, they came out and they looked like they were tweaking because they missed their ADHD medication or something. They were just like ready to go, twitching, going crazy. Um, so they kind of do like this mashup of like indie rock and there's a little bit of Midwest emo underneath it, um, and a little bit of black MIDI and black country in there as well. It's a weird mix of like I'm a nerd coming up and playing guitar, and I'm getting influenced by all these bands on the music nerd sites, and here we are, which can like kind of go one or two ways, but I feel like they've definitely cemented a good lane for themselves. Um, the singer is eccentric, he's crazy, and I loved his energy. He was talking so fast that you couldn't understand him on the microphone. uh, He'd be like, "Okay, this is new. We'll play the next song," and then all of a sudden he'll go into like the craziest guitar riff you've ever seen, and then he'll do a falsetto out of nowhere, and it was just insane and weird and crazy. Um,
Oh.
it's a really weird fusion. I like it. It was definitely like, wow, I feel old, but at the same time, like, okay, this is also the stuff I listen to, so I shouldn't feel that old. It's just like this kid that's probably younger than me going insane on a guitar. Like they were, you know, going on the ground and going crazy and doing all like the guitar hero moves and everything, during songs that like the parts of the songs didn't really need it. Like they all looked like they were just kind of like tweaking while they were playing. There was so much energy in there, and it was just kind of a not a basic indie rock riff, but like not the hardest part of the song,
Oh.
um, which was just really funny. So they did really great though. Like his vocals were like um, kind of Isaac like. If you mix Isaac and you know, Jordy from Black Midi, you get
Mm.
this kind of eccentric figure who's kind of got this whiny Midwest emo thing, but like is also breaks out and does a slow ballad where he like hits these really high notes really well, and I'm just like, wow, where did you pull that out from?
Mm.
um it was a doozy of an opener, but I really enjoyed it. Everybody was going crazy for them. I feel like this was kind of like a they came for Black Country and Freako kind of
Mm.
thing.
Sure.
So I might check out the studio version of the album. It's only 35 minutes. I definitely enjoyed like the performance of it. It was very, very, very high energy. Um, I love just an eccentric singer that just is just crazy. Like he was just off the walls all over the place, and then he'll get really serious and just do like a gorgeous song out of nowhere, and then just continue being crazy, which I enjoy. Um, he's got that Geordie kind of Greep energy without the super low Sinatra type thing that he's
Oh.
doing.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was a lot of fun. I did not know what to expect from Freako. It's a name that I've heard of for a long time, but I've just had not listened to their music yet. So I was just like, all right, let's see what this is live, and it was crazy. Um, but yeah, they did a really good job. Then Black Country came out. Got the main group. Um, there's not a lot to discuss actually about it because you have one album of new material and then a live album to go off of. So the set list is what you'd expect. I think we did get the best version of a set list that could possibly happen in this iteration of the band because we got the entire album, plus we got The Boy and Turbine's Pigs
Mm.
from Live at Bush Hall, which are the two best songs on that album. Um, so we really did get the best of everything with that. Um, Obviously, no Anthem Up There before. They're not doing that anymore, which I expected. I did not even expect them to do anything from Live at Bush Hall, and they did two of them, so I was very happy about that. Um, but they're all really fantastic players. Like they're so good because everybody's playing like four instruments. They all have like their own kind of set of instruments with them, which was really cool. Uh, I think May is probably the standout musician out of all of them. Like Georgia was kind of like tucked on the left side. She had her couple of moments with her songs, but May kind of like stole the entire concert
Mm.
because she had "The Boy," which is her lead song. She has "Turbine's Pigs," which is hers. Um, what else we have for the Cold Country and "Forever How Long"? Like she was just phenomenal. Forever How Long especially was really cool because that's the song where there's five recorders on it. So everybody was playing a recorder and she was conducting them as she was kind of performing her vocal part
Oh
because
snap.
it's very impressionistic. So she has to like give the movements where she's like kind of moving on. It was really cool. Um, but yeah, it's these young musicians have so much talent. It's insane. It's they're all juggling so many different instruments and tempos and parts, and we're switching vocalists as they do their main songs, but we're also like switching stations. Like I think May and Tyler switched for um, what was it? I think Socks, because Tyler has the piano part in that song, which I didn't realize until then. Um, so it was very collaborative. It was the most collaborative band on stage that I think I've seen. Like all six members were as important as the other. There was no front person. It was they were all kind of in a line, so they all had equal kind of space and spotlight, which
Hmm.
is really cool. You don't really see that.
Yeah.
Um, the craziest part though is they brought out a special guest,
Bob Odenkirk?
which I wish that would have been crazy.
I was just thinking of Chicago people.
Yeah. Well, they were like, we brought out we're gonna bring out an Illinois native, of a popular Illinois native. I'm like, Bob Odenkirk, Bob Odenkirk.
Come on.
They brought out like a professional yo-yo player who's like big on TikTok or something.
Oh.
Um, and it's just like this normal looking kind of nerdy guy with a yo-yo that he comes out with his hands in his pocket, just kind of shy. And then they play the big spin and he choreographs the yo-yo with the song, and it was the best thing I've ever seen.
That's awesome.
Um, it was amazing. You can find it on Instagram. I think they Black Country uploaded the the footage of it. Um, it was insane. He was really really good. It was hypnotizing. I didn't know what to expect from a yo-yo player like that, but he was really freaking good at it. So
Wow.
um, yeah, the vibes are fantastic. I really loved it. I think the outro "Goodbye" was really fantastic too. You finally got those massive builds at the end. That was just really really nice. Um, so yeah, they're such a like good band live. Their playing is as tight as it is on the studio versions. The vocals are fantastic. But yeah, I think May in general just kind of stole the show for me. She was just like killing it the entire night. I never realized what kind of wizardry she has to do on the piano too until you like just. I was just like keyed in on her hands because she was going insane on a lot of these tracks. Um, but yeah, it was a fantastic show. We were in a balcony seating, so we were back a bit farther. Which past couple of concerts I've been at, I've been right up front. But um, the Salt Shed was such a cool venue with the lights and stuff. So yeah, fun time. Definitely go see him live if you have the chance. It's been something I've been wanting to see for a long time. Um, I was gonna go on the Ants from Up There tour if it existed, and it did not.
Oh yeah, because that was
Yeah.
2021, right?
That was 2022,
22.
and then Isaac left the week before, so then they had to cancel all the tour dates they had, and then Live at Bush Hall became the thing because they had to get material for those live dates that they couldn't cancel.
Oh yeah.
So that's where that came from. Um, which the material on that is really good for having to do that. So yeah, but great show. The tickets were not too expensive at all. Like it was a busy show, I think, because Frico had a hometown show, and this is the only Midwest and kind of adjacent to Midwest location that they're doing. They don't have a long run for the Midwest tour, so it was definitely a full show.
Mm.
More than I actually thought it was going to be, but again, because it's so limited, I think that's why. But yeah, very very good. So shout out to Black Country. Also, I got the collector's edition vinyl, which is one I wanted. It looks
Nice.
like it actually got painted. It's got like some cool textures and stuff on it. So
That's pretty sick.
very good. Okay. Normal music stuff. Uh, ongoing thing, I guess. Joey Badass and Ray Vaughn are engaging in a little bit of a rap battle.
Oh.
Um, the past couple of days. This has kind of been brewing for a little bit, but there have been tracks fired on each side now. So
Oh
that
wow.
is currently ongoing. It's been pretty quick too. I think Ray Vaughn posted his response yesterday, and then Joey posted his today, something
Oh.
like that. So it's been very quick back and forth. This is a very so far just rap battle, which is great.
Nice.
Beef, typical stuff. I have not tapped into the songs yet, but I will probably get in there and start seeing what's going on. I know Joey's been kind of baiting Kendrick into responding since last year, and he kept kind of like trying to poke at him. I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Why?
I don't know. Joey's competitive. I
Oh.
don't think he has like an issue. I think it's more of like a this is my chance to get up there and try to take a
Mm.
shot. But I don't think Kendrick's gonna do that. So
No, I don't think Kendrick has a problem with Joey Badass.
no,
Unless he
I don't know
does.
if
I
it
don't know.
would. I don't think he does.
I don't think
I
so
mean,
either.
it would just be a pure lyrical rap battle, which is cool. But I don't know like if that's necessarily something he wants to engage in. So whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, Ray Vaughn, I haven't really heard much from him. I think he just dropped an album a couple of weeks ago. Um, yeah, literally 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I have not listened to that yet either. He was definitely one of those kind of like smaller TDE artists where I'm kind of just like, eh, I haven't really messed with him that much. But people are
Yeah.
saying this mixtape is pretty good, so I might have to give that a listen eventually here. Um, I kind of put him in the same category as Reason, which I shouldn't do, and I know that's wrong of me. So I genuine Reason is awful. I don't know why he's on TDE or he was on TDE, he got dropped.
Oh.
Reason is awful. Um, Bravon, I'm sure, is a lot better by extension, but this is his first mixtape, so I mean, he's still pretty new. Um, but I've been hearing good things about it, so I might check that out. I got a lot of catching up to do in general, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have sides or anything. I think this is just pure like Joey's been trying to get at Kendrick, and then Rayvon's like, "Why are you doing that?" And then they kind of got into it. So, um, whatever, I'll take it. I like a good kind of actual battle where it's not messy and clickbaity and
Yeah, there's
trying to get tabloids.
well, and there's not like some grand statement. It's
Right.
just like for the game. I like that.
Mm-hmm. That's how it usually is,
Oh, yeah.
despite the two beefs that Drake's engaged in past.
Uh,
Because, yeah.
yeah.
um, I mean, he deserves all of that has happened to him, the way he acts. So,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. But that's a cool thing that's going on. I'll tap in and see what's going. Hopefully, it stays clean. I don't know what they would really do, have on each other. I think this just has to be like a rap confrontation. I don't think there's like a deep rooted like hatred.
Mr.
Um,
Robot sucks.
yeah, you weren't even that good at Mr. Robot, which is a
That
lie.
would be a lie. He's the best part of that that
He
season. He's
really
in.
is. Yeah. Okay, stuff coming out. Amine has a new album dropping tonight as time of recording.
Oh wow.
It's 13 Months of Sunshine. See what's going on with that. Um, yeah, I have not heard any of the singles or anything with this, but Amine is always a fun time. So I will make sure to check that out and see what's popping with that. But yeah. Remember Caroline?
Yes. Of course.
They're dropping a new album.
I saw that. And people are
It's
like
called
talking
Caroline
about it.
2.
Oh. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. It comes out May 30th, and they have a song on it with Caroline Polachek.
That oh. Really?
Yeah.
Those two?
Uh-huh. Caroline featuring Caroline Polachek, which it looks like the single's out for it already, so I might give that a listen. I just like remember that this was coming out. But yeah, I'm kind of excited because the first Caroline record, I was like, there's so much potential here, but this one is just not that great.
Yeah.
Um, like there was some really cool moments, but a lot of it was like kind of, uh, I don't know, like transitions and skits and not skits, but like a lot of like samples and just
It was like field
ambient noises.
recording.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm excited for this though because I feel like they've taken 3 years. The landscape's a lot different now. I'm interested to see what they kind of do with this. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'll check that out for sure. Also coming out on May 30th, A$AP Rock, new album Black Hole Superettes.
Oh.
Very excited for this. Yeah, this looks stacked. We got Arm& Hammer and Open Mike Eagle, Homeboy Sandman, Lupe, all as features. This is
Oh.
going to be great. I'm very, very excited. Like, Integrated Tech Solutions from 2023 was pretty good. That's the only A$AP Rock record I've heard so far, which I know, me being in my lane,
Yeah.
that's unacceptable. I will get to it.
I'm kind of
Um,
shocked.
yeah, I know. There's certain artists where I'm like, I don't check out stuff intentionally because it'll send me on an entire rabbit hole and kind of like break off from my typical stuff, which is fine.
Uh,
I do that once a year usually, but I think he's one of those where it's like if I start, I'm gonna really get into it. So I
yeah, I
usually
could
try
see
to
that.
do that when it's more of a dead time. But maybe this new album will spark that because Integrated Tech Solutions was pretty good. Um, it has the kind of clipping vibe of their last record where it is very kind of cyberpunky, techy. So it's like not the most replayable for me, but when I listen to it, it's really good. Um, but yeah, I'm very excited for this one. I think there are singles out for it, but again, I'm not listening to those, just diving in blind. So yeah, we'll see.
Nice.
Another one. This is a big one. Finally, Maruja, which is a post rock kind of post punky band from I think Windmill Scene stuff. Um, they are finally releasing an album. They have released like 6 EPs and no album.
Oh,
And all the like the 2 EPs I've heard are fantastic. But with them being post rock, I don't listen to them because I'm not going to put on a 22-minute post rock album. That
yeah,
feels
come
like I'm
on.
just getting started and it ends. Um, yeah, so they're finally releasing an album. So it's Pain to Power. It's coming out September 12th. So we got a while. Like they
Oh,
announced it 7 months in advance.
jeez.
Um, but they're the one band that can do that because I'm so excited that they're actually doing an album and they're not just going to keep up this EP streak, even though it is great. Um, but I am ready for them to do a full body of work so I can really kind of see what they're dealing with because they got a lot of talent and they got a lot of good stuff going on. I just wanted something that is more of a complete piece and not just 4 tracks because that feels kind of piecemeal, singly to me, and I can't get into it as much as I want to. Um,
Fair.
but very excited to say the least. Um, yeah, so that's coming. What else do we got? Oh, Hurry Up Tomorrow is out in theaters, I think,
It sure
as of
is.
now. Yeah, it's doing about as well as I expected it to.
Yeah, I saw what it's 17% on Rotten Tomatoes or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could have told you that. I
Oh
think we
yeah.
were both kind of like,
No, no.
eh,
Yeah, that movie's gonna suck. I know.
yeah. I don't like sacrificing the quality of the album for you to go and make a movie that's very mediocre, but
Correct.
whatever. Yeah, at this point, it feels a little self-indulgent.
Oh, yeah. It's down to
Yeah.
15 now.
Okay.
It's yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That
I
whole
think
this whole project has just been disappointing.
it's been a little bit of a mess. I think if you just focused on the music, and I don't think your acting career is going to happen. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't get this really. I mean,
Yeah.
speaking of Elvis, why is he trying to make this a thing?
I don't know.
He's really
I
trying
don't
to
know.
force it.
He seems set on it, and he's just like, it's not working.
The
um,
thing, the interesting thing is that I've heard that like he's not the bad part of it. Like his acting has been
Interesting.
okay,
Okay.
or at least serviceable.
Serviceable. Yeah.
But like it's just everything around it. It's like he just picks these terrible projects. It's
Yeah.
like, come on.
Which, I mean, it makes sense with his like dark R&B stuff, especially the early stuff that he would want to do something like this. But it's like it doesn't translate well to like making music with that vibe is a lot different than making movies with that vibe because it can come across kind of trashy when you put those kind of concepts in film form
Yeah,
where it's like,
absolutely.
oh, I'm actually really messed up and dark actually, and that doesn't always work.
No, there has to be like an angle to it.
Yeah.
Like you can do that. Like American Psycho's kind of like that, where he's like super
Mhm.
depraved and evil, but there's an angle where they're like poking fun at it. Like I don't know if there
Right.
is that angle with the Weekend movie.
Yeah. What I've been seeing so far is like that there's not really like a plot line and it's kind of like an extended music video and there's like nothing that just pulls you in.
Awesome.
So
That's what I
yeah,
like to hear.
I don't know. That's what I like to hear. I I don't know. I think he should have turned in that album 6 months before he did, and it would have been a lot better. Like use the original cover
Mm,
you posted because it matches with the trilogy, and
yep.
not this kind of movie poster looking cover and
Mm-hmm.
all that kind of stuff. Because
It's
like there's
sloppy.
a lot of good stuff on that album, but like I haven't gone back to it at all. It's just not as like it's not a cohesive project.
No, it's this whole thing. It's just bloated and
Yeah,
overindulgent. Like if he just like really sat down and like really focused on just one thing, getting one thing right, I think it could have been a really nice send off. But
Yeah, I
Nope.
think he was doing too much,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
comes with expectation when you're ending your career at your most popular voice
Yeah.
under this alias. But I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't know. I don't know. I think he should have took the hint from the idol, which maybe now
Yeah,
he'll take the hint. I don't know.
maybe. I don't know. I still want to hear him make music under his real name. So
Yeah. No, I do too.
yeah, I feel like he has to do something like that. Like I don't think he's just gonna be like, "Peace, I'm done."
No. No. Yeah.
Especially since there's like still features coming out, which I'm assuming were recorded before the album was done. If they're not, then I don't know what you're doing. You're pulling a logic.
That's a very good
So
point. Are there like? Oh yeah. So there's like features coming out like in the future that are under the
I think
weekend
so.
name.
I think so. Yeah.
Interesting.
And there
That's
was just a timeless remix with Dochi on it
I
that
did
came
see
out
that.
this week, which
I didn't
I
listen
don't need
to
a
it.
remix of that. Yeah.
I thought about listening to it because I like Dochi, but
Uh huh.
oh,
I
it's
gotta give
with
it that.
Playboy Cardi and Dochi.
Yeah, because it's timeless.
Oh, I would
It's more
just
of a Cardi song than it is a Weekend song.
yeah. I'm like just ah, jeez.
Yeah.
Just take Cardi out and put Dochi on there. I'd like that version.
I'm sure you would.
I'm yeah. I don't even hate the Playboy Cardi version. I just like Dochi that much. I'd rather her get the like
True.
first part. Which
Hmm.
who knows? Maybe she gets the first part, but I don't know. Didn't listen to it.
I
I
don't need
don't
a
know if I
remix of
will.
timeless. So I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Albums this week. This Mark Pritchard and Tom York album came out, but I'm not listening to that. So,
Why? Aren't you a
um,
huge Tom York stan?
I am. He's not being great right now, and this album doesn't seem good, so I'm passing. Um,
Is it just because he's
yeah,
a Zionist?
that's a lot of it, and the fact that like half the band is split on it, and Tom and Johnny are being the pretentious idiots. So,
I could see
I don't
that.
know what's gonna happen with all of this. Honestly, they were already kind of losing steam a little bit. Like I do think that Last Smile record's pretty good, but the cutouts one that came after it was just kind of uninspired, and then this stuff kind of becoming more prominent, and I'm just like,
Mm,
I don't want to associate with you right now. I haven't listened to a Radiohead record in probably like 2 years, honestly.
that's a
I
lie.
think the In Rainbows re-reaction we did was probably the last one I really dug into.
Okay, yeah, that's what I
Um,
was gonna say.
yeah, that's the last time I think I touched Radiohead stuff, honestly.
That's fair.
Um, which I mean, I lived that for a couple years, so obviously I'm gonna like stop listening to it at a certain point because I'm just like, give me something different.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm just like, I haven't had the urge. Like, you wrote OK Computer, and this is how you're talking about stuff. Like, grow up.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I'm not gonna listen to it. It seems like kind of, uh, he's in his old man weird era, and I think he's hitting the point where it's too weird for people to attach with it.
Sure.
Um, which I could see him going in because I mean, Anima is phenomenal. Like that's the perfect blend of this kind of ambient, weird IDM stuff that he was doing. I think what I've been seeing with this album is that takes it too far to the point where it's kind of nonsensical. Um, yeah, so we'll see. They're just not in good standing with me right now, so I'm not going to listen to the album because one, that's going to really shade the way that I kind of see it. Like that's going to really change the way that I view this thing. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, it didn't seem enticing to begin with, so it's not like it's a hard like, oh, I'm stopping myself from doing this. I don't want to. It's it's a completely voluntary action.
You're not torn.
Not at all.
Okay.
I was at first when I was first learning and how they their views on a couple of things. I didn't realize how deep it went until I dug into it. I was kind of like keeping myself from doing because I'm like, I don't really want to know. But
Yeah.
um yeah,
Yeah.
they blew up in Israel before any other country, which is not something I knew. Pablo Honey
Really?
was huge in Israel, um, which is their worst album. So take that what you
Why? Do,
will.
do you
I
know
don't know.
why? Okay.
I think they had some connections with their label for like booking them in Israel early on
Oh,
because and that kind of gave them like an audience as they were first starting. I think that's what happened. Um, but
weird.
then they continued to play Israel, and then the BDS organization like reached out to them personally in like 2018, and it was like, "Can you
Oh,
please stop playing here?" and here's our list of like why you should stop doing that. And then they were like, no, and kept going. Like they made a statement on it
Oh,
explicitly. Like you didn't need to do that. There was a private email to you, and it's not like there was like obviously there's always things going on, but it wasn't like a hotbed for it.
yeah,
But then they did it again in 2021 after like there was a big conflict.
yeah.
Um, and they were like pointing out Palestinian flags and like telling them to get out of here, and it was not good.
Jeez.
So yeah,
Okay, I didn't know. I knew that they were like secret. Well, not secret Zionists. I knew they were Zionists. I didn't know it was that bad.
yes, that's what I thought too, because I thought there was like one statement floating out. So I'm kind
Hmm.
of like, okay, like I get that everybody's kind of heated right now. Maybe
Yeah.
this changed, but no, Johnny's digging his feet in because his wife is Israeli, like an Israeli
Oh,
musician. So he's like really digging his feet in,
yeah.
um, which is not good. So yeah, but Ed O'Brien seems to be doing good. So
Oh,
shout
thanks,
out
Ed.
Ed. I hope you do some solo music and stuff. I don't think we're ever getting another Radiohead record.
No, probably not.
This might be the end. Not condemning a genocide is what ends one of the greatest bands of all time.
Yeah, Queen did it
But
too with apartheid.
exactly, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Not wait. I
Yeah.
didn't mean to say that Queen is one of the best bands of all time. I've
Well, I think a lot of people would say that, but
okay.
I don't know if yeah.
I wouldn't say that.
I wouldn't either, but I understand. They're one of the greatest in terms of like culture, but
Sure,
like in terms of actual output, no.
they have great songs. I would. I
They have
wouldn't.
great songs.
I wouldn't say that there's a great Queen album.
Right. Yeah.
They are
One of
very
those
hit and
bands where you
miss.
could put all their best songs and make a greatest hits album. That would probably be one of their best selling because it's people just want the songs.
I
So
think Queen's greatest hits is like always like a top selling vinyl at like
yeah,
Barnes and Noble and
it
Urban
makes sense.
Outfitters. Yeah, and that album's good.
True. So point proven.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I have been following a new podcast, and they have like really, I don't know how they get the connection they do, but they've had an interview with Ephraim from Godspeed, and he had thoughts on Tom York. So that's where I
Oh.
got like the initial kind of pop off of like, oh, this is deeper than I thought it was. They also had Roger Waters on, which I'm like,
Oh
how did you get
snap!
Roger Waters to do an interview with you? Um,
I didn't know he left his house.
that too. Like, I think it was a virtual interview, but it was like, wow, you have
Oh,
Roger Waters on right now.
that's
And he
sick.
was talking about how he tried to talk to Tom York about a lot of this stuff because Roger Waters has been like pro-Palestine for since like 2004 or something.
Sure.
Um, and he was like, Tom was unreceptive to anything. Like he was not friendly to it at all. Like he pushed back immediately. And I was like, wow,
Damn.
that's crazy. Like you're talking to Roger Waters and you're doing that?
Yeah, come
That's
on.
crazy.
I mean,
Yeah,
Pink Floyd definitely influenced Radiohead. It's like you
absolutely.
would think that like, man, I can't imagine like someone that
Mhm.
like you admire so much, like
Yeah.
saying, "Hey,
And it's interesting too, because like Roger Waters, they played in Israel up until 2004, and
mm,
Roger Waters like met with BDS and Palestinian organizations as that was getting started. I don't think BDS existed at that point,
sure,
but like they were able to like sit down and have a discussion with him, and like Roger Waters actually changed his mind and canceled a sold out show
mm,
on the Dark Side of the Moon tour in Israel.
damn,
And I was like, wow, okay, that's how you can respond to something like this. Um,
absolutely,
Yeah, so I have major respect for Roger Waters. I know he gets a lot of flack from um, a lot of people.
yeah,
I don't agree with everything that comes out of his mouth, but he is one that he stands on his politics, and they're often pretty good.
hmm
Um,
I mean, he's been
and
like fighting fascism forever.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So shout out Roger Waters. Not great, Tom York. Do better.
yes, big
I
agree.
will be spitting Animals because Animals is one of the best albums of all time.
Oh,
Um,
so G dang good.
yeah,
I love
it's
that album.
phenomenal. But I thought I'd use my time for the new Tom York record to just talk against Tom York, which is something I never thought I wanted to do or could do, but I'm doing it. So there we go. Um,
Yeah.
okay. Only other album that came out this week was probably one of the best things I've heard in my life, and I have a first reaction to it on the channel, but we
Oh,
will talk
yeah.
about it a little bit. New Billy Woods album. Uh,
Don't
insert
say
title
it.
here. Yep. um, yeah, This was an experience. This was a ride. Um, I don't even know. I'm not going to talk about all the music and stuff on here. You can kind of just see my reaction, and I'll gather more thoughts eventually. But I'm still kind of wading through this because it's a lot. Um, I was really interested to see how people were going to receive this because Maps was an album like the last album, and that put him on a different kind of plane of popularity. A lot more people kind of started tuning in, and that album is not the. I'm not saying it's like a non Bailey Woods album or anything, but in terms of accessibility, it's probably his most accessible. There's a lot of drums in the beats,
Mm.
which is not always true with a lot of his stuff. Um, I think the subject matter is a little bit easier for people to kind of cling on to. His writing is still phenomenal and everything, but it's not as heavy or contextual in terms of stuff like that. Like it's a travel album, and there's a lot of really dense tracks in here, but like it's a very easy album to kind of get to. So I was interested to see how people were going to react when this came out because this might be, I'm not going to say the least accessible in his catalog, but it is a lot if you're actually digging into it. Um, it's been interesting to see how people react in like their reviews and album of the year and stuff because there's a certain kind of you can tell who's been listening to Billy Woods for a while, and you can tell who has not been, and they're
Oh,
following the most popular albums because they look out for those so they can listen to them. Which I don't have any issue with those people. I think if you're seeing something that's getting a lot of hype, you should listen to it.
yeah.
Um, I think this requires a. I'm not. I don't want to sound gatekeepy with this. This requires a certain attention that needs to be given to it in order to fully understand what's kind of being portrayed. A lot of people are just saying, "Ooh, it sounds like a horror movie," because the beats are scary and it is the concept is kind of a horror film in a lot of the ways. Um, but there's so many like layers and very very serious things going on with this album, and I think uh, especially like this album kind of incriminates you from the second you turn it on because if you don't know the context of the title, like you kind of get incriminated into like saying a slur um,
Yeah.
or posting about a slur when you're talking about this album if you don't do any research, which you should be if you're listening to Billy Woods, because that's half of the fun is researching all the stuff he's talking about.
Yeah.
Um, so it's interesting how you can kind of incriminate yourself really easily with this thing, and it's incredibly uncomfortable. This is the most uncomfortable album in his catalog, and there's definitely some moments in a lot of this stuff, but this is a different level of. I've had a hard time getting through it a couple of times. Like I've been wanting to like kind of dive into it more, but I'd get to a certain point in the album and I'd be like, nope, I'm doing this later. I'm not doing this right
Wow.
now. Yeah, and I think that's just like I'm taking it very seriously because I think this is his one of his strongest statements he's done, and I think that's because the writing is top class. It is one of the best written things ever, and like a lot of his stuff is. But I think the emotional baggage that comes with this album is far greater than a lot of the other stuff that he's done because a lot of the emotional stuff he has is I don't want to say vague, but it's kind of shrouded in a lot of personal stuff that we don't really know about him. Um, but there are obviously hints and nods and lyrics in a lot of these songs, and older in his catalog that like are very heavy. I think like "Remorseless" was one that people would point out from Aethiopes because that is a depressing song. This album tops that. Yeah, it gets to a certain point. Like the album's really really fun and it is spooky and stuff. Tracks 1 through 4. Waterproof Mascara I think is a genius putting it at track 5 before we get into the kind of meat of the album because that preservation beat should be illegal. I don't know what the studio session was like between the two because Waterproof's Mascara's beat is like I think just like a real clip of a woman just like crying in desperation, like really really vivid, and that's the loop. Like that's the loop is just
Oh,
this woman crying, and it's super uncomfortable to listen to, and then his verses on top of it are even more just like harrowing. um so things kind of like the vibe shifts from there, and then it becomes just it almost becomes too real for a lot of it. um yeah, because you have Corinthians, which LP's beat on it is just insane. It sounds like just like a very very tense moment in a sci-fi kind of horror situation. But Wood's verse is like just speaking to like the current moment of genocide and rising fascism to a playing that like gets very very uncomfortable. And then at the height of the track, he hands it over to Dustspot, which is just really phenomenal. Um, the track that just like there's a like 4 track run here that just is it's probably the best part of the album and probably one of the best parts of his catalog is just like I think all these worlds are yours with Lucid are great, but Maquiladoras is something changes there too. Like we're already in a very serious place, but Wood's verse on Maquiladoras is one of the best things I have ever heard. It emotionally just like struck me. I had to just like take a minute. Like the in the reaction, I had to re-record my my like statement after the song because I could not get like a coherent thought out after it. So I'm like,
Wow.
I need to do this over. I can't do this. It is one of the best written things I've ever seen in my life. It's taking Franz Fanon's like final days, and he's kind of having a conversation with him about um, one of the concepts he had of like he was very against amputation as a concept because he had more of like a humanist perspective of staying whole and like the colonized masses need to free themselves in a way that does not involve amputation because they need to remain whole out of colonial power so they don't lose culture or anything like that. Um, but Woods was like he had the right answer to the wrong question. The right answer being violence needs to be used against oppressors to free themselves, but he doesn't agree with the amputation part. And this whole verse is just it is too much. Like I caught a couple of things in the first reaction, obviously, because certain buzzwords went off my head. I'm like, oh, okay, I understand what he's coming from this. But every single bar in between the bar is just like harrowing. Um, it's hard to even put into words because it is a very academic verse, but the way he mixes the academic and the emotional is like too much. Um, it is maybe his best verse ever. I don't know. It's struck me. It's in my head still. Like it's been almost a week since I reacted, and it's been clinging in my head because I feel like I'm getting it, but I need to like dig even more into what it is because it feels like one of the most profound statements I've heard in a song, um, just in general, which kind of pulls into the I'm not sure if everybody's getting the most they can out of this thing. It's getting praised so much, which is great, phenomenal. I'm so glad people are getting into him in a more wide appeal finally. I just think it's very interesting with him being a very non-commercial artist and not willing to budge like for commercial success in his art. You're going to have to take a very fine-tooth comb through a lot of his stuff if you're not tapped into what he usually talks about, which is good. You should be doing that because I've gotten endless book recommendations and people to look into from his work. Um, but and it's interesting to see because Maquiladoras is like rated an 83 on Album of the Year, and I would put that track at 100 because it is just the pinnacle of everything. Um, so it's interesting how the ratings kind of fall out too, and I don't see as many people talking about this verse as I thought would.
Mm.
But the usual people who I like follow that enjoy Billy Woods, like they were digging their teeth into this as much as I was. Um, it all sounds very gatekeepy. It's not. It's just like it's hard to view an artist kind of gaining a bit of commercial success when their music is so anti-commercial and the way that the masses are starting to kind of view it and like any album of the year review that's like less than 4 sentences I'm not counting as a valid review for this. I think you at least need like 3 paragraphs to like talk about this thing. um so I don't know, shout out Batko on album of the year. His review for this was just like fantastic, is incredibly well said, much better than I could say. um but I don't know. It's interesting because I see someone like that who is so clearly tapped in and has the passion for it, like I do, and is just able to eloquently say it. And then I see so many people with anime profile pictures just like making funny jokes about the album, and I'm like, I don't even want to laugh at these because I don't think the album has anything that makes you want to incite that emotion. I get
Mhm.
that you're uncomfortable and like a humor can like kind of become out of that, but like this feels so heavy. It's insane.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. But anyways, Maquiladores ends with this "Time is on my side" kind of really beautifully sung. Feels like a funeral song almost, and then the saxophone from that goes into "Doll Full of Pins," and it is one of the most like cathartic beats. It is one of the best beats I've ever heard in my life. I have not heard of a lot of Jeff Markey stuff, but he absolutely kills this instrumental. It's so heavy. Yeah, that's that center part of the album is just it's so incredible. But it's an insane experience. It's one of those where it's like I rate it pretty high. I don't do the like, oh my god, it's amazing, it's 100. This is gonna take months to climb up to that point if it even does. Um, I do think there are points on it where I'm like, these songs are really good, but does it stand up thematically and everything with these heavy hitters? But time will kind of tell with that because, as usual, the more I listen, I catch the lines in between the lines where he'll say something like, that's obviously a bar, but then the next line will kind of add on to it, but you're too busy like thinking about the last one to catch it. That
Hmm.
kind of stuff pops out as you listen more. Um, but yeah, I think conceptually or just like sonically, it feels like a mix of Hiding Places and Aethiopes, which are his two best records. So that's like a major plus in that way. I think Aethiopes is a bit like it's tighter. This one has 18 songs. Aethiopes has 13, and I feel like it sticks to those 13 very well. So it's a lot cleaner of a listen.
Mm.
Um, but this one is like there's so many horror movie references, and like everything is tied to a horror movie or a horror book or a short story in some way. Um, so conceptually, it is like maybe his best, but yeah, I don't know. It perfectly balances like the academic and emotional. Like it's hard to listen to at points. I think especially since I do have like a knowledge of Fanon and all these kind of things, like those things are just very emotionally heavy right now. Um, but yeah, it's a triumph. It's phenomenal. Yeah, it deserves all the praise it's getting. I'm glad it's getting a wider audience, and I hope they kind of dig deeper into his catalog. Um, but yeah, it's he's got the best discography of anybody this decade, at least. It could be even more than that. I think this is one of the best hip hop discographies ever. If you take this and Arm and Hammer kind of combined, I think you got top five hip hop catalog ever. I do think he is the best writer currently working right now too. Um, which I mean, him and Kendrick are the top for me, and they're two completely different styles.
Hmm.
Which I think is good because this is very it embodies doom and it embodies the underground in the perfect way and the soul of hip hop that is revolutionary and um, confrontational and all that kind of stuff. And then you have Kendrick, who's kind of carrying the torch of that other side of the birth of hip hop very well. So I think they're two good ones to have really in their stride right now. So yeah, it's phenomenal. I don't know. There's so much to say about it, but like I still can't form proper words about it yet. So I had to sit on that reaction for a while when I was editing. I'm like, I just want to say more, but I don't know what to say. So I'm just gonna
Mm.
try to clean up my jumbled mess that kind of came out in a couple of these. Um, one of the hardest reaction videos I had to film because there's like, I don't know, my brain just kind of melts at a certain point with this kind of stuff. But phenomenal. Everybody should still check it out. It's an insane record. And I'm glad it's so well received. Fantano gave it a 7, which I don't understand at all. So I'm gonna have to watch the review and see why he didn't like it more, because this thing is phenomenal. Um,
Was it a
although I sometimes feel
strong
like
7?
I think, oh, I don't know, it could be a strong 7. I feel like it probably is. Um, I feel like lyrically he doesn't dive as much as he should.
Mm. Yeah,
That's
maybe
just
not.
which if you're reviewing that many things, I understand it. But
Yeah.
I mean, a couple of things on here, like the way it's hitting me emotionally once I kind of understand the thing he's really getting at is just like wow, like this is profound. I had those kind of like those insane reactions that like when you hear To Pimp a Butterfly and start to really understand it. I got that a couple of times on here. I
Wow.
don't think it's going to extend to the full album at all, but like there's a couple of those moments where I'm like, there is no way in any language that you could like portray this thought better than you just portrayed it. Um, and that's the brilliance. So I don't know, he even calls that like the English language is violence on the first song, which is a concept where I'm like, wait a minute. And then I think about it. I'm like, yeah, I guess it is. Um, but just kind of like this, like, oh, English is a language, but now it is kind of the global language because of the hegemony of all these different empires. And a lot of people are bilingual that are not in the United States, but us in the States, we get our or great pleasure of not having to speak another language,
Yeah.
um, which is a crazy thought to think about. There's so many layers on here. I could talk forever. This is like it's an impossibly, not impossibly dense, but like there's so many things you could write thesis papers on his stuff, especially this album. So, um, yeah, it's phenomenal. Check it out. Don't say the album title unless you know all the history of it, and then still don't say it, because that shouldn't be something you do. It's interesting because the foundation for the person who made the children's book that like kind of characterized it finally with like a name. Um, they're trying to rebrand it as uh, like a lovable, empowering figure,
Oh.
and that's really weird. Um,
Oh.
yeah, especially coming from the Brits, where a lot of this stuff was. Uh,
Oh. Yeah, if it's British,
Very
then
strange.
uh-oh.
Yes, yeah, it is 19th, 20th century stuff,
Oh no.
but yeah,
That's not what I like to hear. 19th century British.
yeah. Because like
Hmm.
I think the novel started out where it's like they described it as like a black gnome and like this horrible thing, and then as the novels went in, she like tried to like change its character a little bit to be more lovable and stuff, but it's still like a horrible caricature of like I'm loving this dehumanized thing that has paws and is like just really insane looking.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, so it's brilliant the way the cover art and the title is just so confrontational in that way. Um, yeah, it's insane. So shout out Billy Woods, one of the best to ever do it. I would say top three at this point. I don't think I should cloud any like any era or anything. It is what it is. Years from now, when people look back, it'll not be a hot take. I swear to you. Um, Although Doom was brought into the conversation after his death, unfortunately, because he got a lot of stuff like that boost, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, but Doom was always meant to be, top 10. So
But people
same
knew
with Woods,
about Doom.
absolutely. And I think Woods will kind of embody that same thing. He's starting to. Obviously, the landscape's a lot different, but I mean, you can't look at a discography like this and not not have feelings of like, is he really the best? Um, yeah, insane streak. But that's what's been feeling my noggin. Yeah, it's a lot. Only writer that can ever just like have something pop in my head and just stay there and just sit there. I gotta reread my Fanon book, and I gotta get the other Fanon book because he references that one a lot, and I feel like that's gonna be a lot more interesting for me to dive into as well. But very very good. Give it a listen. Tread lightly. It's terrifying in many ways, but yeah, other than that, that's pretty much all I've been jamming. It's been Billy Woods and Talk Talk, which is a crazy combination, but that's how I usually do. I usually have something that's like very heavy, and then something that's just my comfort stuff. So yeah,
That's the way to do it.
exactly. Oh yeah, there's a new Boldy James album too, which I guess I could say that about every single week. But this one is actually like people are actually saying that it's a good album, so I will probably check that out for next week. Um, Yeah, it is middle of May. Boldy James has 6 albums out this year.
Ah, that's more
So
than one a month.
that is more than one a month. But this is a real Badman collaboration album. So their track record has been very good. So I'll probably give this a listen. The features are Conway and LP. So
Oh.
good. I will listen to that. Um, but yeah, I almost forgot about that. Just wanted to plug that Boldy has once again dropped an album to the surprise of nobody.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's it.
I just found out something very weird
Uh huh.
and tangential. Did you know that the original name of Creedence Clearwater Revival was the G Words? Uh,
Actually, I found that out today because I was YouTube searching the word
what the
for like
hell?
to see how our SEO was doing, and people were like making covers of the songs. I'm like, wait a minute, who is this?
That's crazy. I didn't know
Yeah,
that. Wow.
crazy. The actual slur in there is the WOG at the end. That's where the actual slur comes from.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of a morphing of words.
Gotcha.
So I think if they were just the WOGs, that'd be like, whoa,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
It's still, I guess it was, it looks like it was like the band that eventually turned into the,
interesting.
I don't know if it was like all the original members. I don't know. I
Because
just
they're
see that.
American, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because this wasn't very popular in American. I mean, we had minstrel stuff and everything, but like this specific doll wasn't like the hotbed in America.
No,
It's
yeah, it looks
interesting.
like they're from California.
Huh.
So yeah, I don't know. That kind
The
of
more
makes
you
me
know.
like, why? No, they named it after the children's literary character.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have no idea. This is a wild little rabbit hole I just found, but
And
wow,
that's the magic of Billy Woods.
I guess so. Does that
Find out
mean
a lot of information, a lot useful and a lot terrifying.
does that mean that I have to change my favorite album cover? Because my favorite album
Fancy.
cover is Mardi Gras by Creedence Clearwater Revival, an album I have
That name
never
is
heard.
funny.
I just like the cover of it. uh, uh, it's weird. It's ghostly. You see it on vinyl. It doesn't hit the same on Spotify, but if you find a copy of Mardi Gras by Creedence Clearwater Revival, when I first saw it, I was vexed, which is a fun word I just learned.
Oh, I see. That is
It's
terrifying.
it's a ghost. It's very, yeah. I first saw it when I was working at my uncle's record store, and someone like brought it in, and like I was just like going through this stack of records that were brought in, and then like I had paused for like 2 seconds when I saw that, and I was like, "What is this? This is so creepy." And it's my favorite album cover. So, shout out the G words. That's
Maybe
what
that
I
should
say.
be our maybe that should be our new community video is best what's your favorite album cover? I feel like we get a lot of interesting things from that.
That would be how. What would we do for that video, though?
I don't know. I guess we'd have to sample a song, I guess. But we'd talk about the album cover the most.
That's a good idea. I don't know any of the songs on this album. I don't know if it's one of their big ones. It was one of their later ones.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it.
That's okay. But that was a bit of a turn. Sorry for derailing.
No, it added.
Oh, okay.
It proved my point.
Well, good. I haven't been listening to much new stuff. I did go back to Shore. Shore's a good album.
I was also listening to that this week, and it's just
Really?
like, wow, this is so good.
I don't. What is it about this week? Something.
I don't know.
I was just like, it feels right now to listen to some Shore.
The weather just like changed for the better. So I think it's just like the windows are open. I need something chill.
And Shore's perfect for that.
It is.
And so is Crack Up. I need to go back to Crack Up.
Yeah. I need to like re-listen to all of them honestly before we do that video. But
Yeah. I listened to their self-titled. Every time I listen to the self-titled, I'm like, is this gonna hold up? And then of course it does.
yeah, I need to do that again. I need to get any record. I don't have any of their records.
You don't have any Fleet Foxes records?
Nope.
What's wrong with you?
I don't know. I feel like my record store hasn't had any.
Have you bought the lyric book, didn't you?
Not yet, but I will.
Oh, okay. I thought you did.
It's on my list too.
Well, if you get the self-titled album, it comes with the Sun Giant EP.
Yeah.
So it's a 2-for-1,
more.
which we still need to do on the channel.
Yes. I'm behind on my vinyl purchases. All my favorite albums this year I do not have on vinyl yet. So
I just have Lucy,
Although-
I think.
I've been to a couple of concerts, so I've been spending a lot at the merch tables.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's fair. I have not been. I don't know if I've been record shopping this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've gone once, and I was trying to hold myself because I had 2 concerts coming up.
Yeah. I'm too poor.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. No new music for me. Oh, I re-listened to A Deeper Understanding by the War on Drugs. It's a
Mm-hmm.
G dang good record.
So good.
I don't know why they aren't my favorite band. I need to like I feel like I just need to like do a complete deep dive on them because like
Yeah, I
now
was
it's like
so into them
completely
after that
clicking.
reaction, and I just forgot for a while, and then I just like found it in my shuffle the other day, or like a couple weeks ago, and I'm just like, wow, I forgot how good this is.
Yeah, I mean,
Honestly, the Bon Iver album struck that because I'm like, what is this from? And then I
oh
looked
yeah,
at War on
yeah.
Drugs, I'm like, oh, there it is.
We need to do their other albums,
Yeah, we do.
or at least the
I
I know
got two more
the
I think I want to do on the channel, so
okay. Maybe I'll add them to my wheel.
good idea.
Okay. I don't know. The only, well, to replace Bill Withers, it'll be a semi yikes, and I'm not putting War on Drugs in a semi
No,
yikes.
it's good.
I'll have to figure out what to put there. Um, but yeah, I think that's all I have to say.
Me too.
Bye.